Hi, I'm Jason from the Quarantunes, and welcome to my desk, where we wrote and recorded the Quarantunes challenge, which, all happened pretty much here. I wanted to dive in a little bit on how it was made, not necessarily the writing process, but more of the nuts and bolts of how we actually got the sound into the computer and streamed out to where you guys are. So yeah, let's dive into it. I figured to look at Irish here for a second. Alright, so see here, some of you might know what's going on, some of you might not, and then, that's totally okay. There's a lot that goes into audio production, and it can be a little daunting, but just bear with me. So, up here, we got our drums, got a nice group there. Pretty much for drum tracks, it was either the octopad that we have, or we had actually a very small portion of my drum set in the other room in Andrew's office, where it was just the kick drum and the snare and the hi-hat. And so right here, I got the kick, which we mic'd with a D112 microphone that had that. For the most part, we moved the drum set around a little bit. I had it right about there, pretty much hugging the kit. I just figured, I don't know, I just set it. You're gonna hear that a lot. I pretty much just set it and was just like, you know what, we gotta get it recorded, and it's gonna be all right. On the snare, SM57 had it. Let's use a pocket knife right about there, and then just one overhead. I would have liked it in stereo, but I didn't grab enough microphone stands at the time, and just never ended up doing anything different about it. So I had that. This say was your drum set. I just had it up here, about center. Got just a general overview of the drum set. And then on occasion we had some auxiliary percussion, and either had it just at the drum set, and I'd either shake the tambo or do whatever other percussion item we were doing and just had it in the drum overhead, or on occasion just use this guy right here, my Perception 220, which I use for a lot of things actually. It's a pretty versatile mic, and on the cheaper end too, so if you're looking for a decent mic. So we got some vocals, pretty much this exact setup, but just depending on who was doing it and where we were doing it. It would be on a taller stand, or it would be in that room, it'd be somewhere. But basically, pop filter, got it on the isolation stand there, got these little foam pads. The acoustic guitar, which was used on a lot of stuff, and just pretty much all of them were just this guy right here. I would use this one a lot actually, and point it right about here. It gets a good balance when it's just the one microphone right about here. What else? On occasion we had a saxophone or flute, and Peter just went into either an SM57 or into this guy. Again, like I said, I use this a lot. The electric guitar, it was either a mix of this Les Paul, which I've had forever, or my new Squier Jazzmaster that I got last birthday. Regardless of the model, I went direct into the interface. The bass, again, just DI right in, and almost every bass track you hear is this guy right here. And when I needed a little bit more crunch, I pulled out this guy, old Squier P bass. And then on that banjo, having never mic'd up a banjo, I mean, it's basically a drum with some strings ran over it, almost like a snare, but you like play the snares instead of hitting the drum. So my instinct was to actually, like, if the strings were running across there, I ended up just miking right on the drum, kind of like I would the rest of the drums. So, and I think it turned out pretty freaking well. So I was happy with that. Add your standard amount of compressions and funny EQs. Just because it was, a time crunch every day, I basically just went with your standard EQ settings that are preset from Ableton here. Got Nectar 3 here for the vocals. It's got this cool vocal assistant. You basically just hit that, play the audio through it, and it goes, hey, you should probably add this. And you go, cool, sounds good. Acoustic, again, just a little, basically everything, a little bit of compression, or a lot of compression depending on what it was. EQ, And then guitar rigs specifically for the electric guitars to model whatever amp style we were looking for. And then the bass, on occasion I would just do compression and EQ, but sometimes I needed that kind of modeled cab sound, even though on here it's obviously DI box. But it just gave it that extra boost and made it sit in the mix better, depending on the track. So, and then yeah, just
Smart pack. It's the 17th of March. I should be in the street, spoiling the black.
Just gave it my ear to try to see how it would fit. The first round, of course, every day, I was just like, I have to get it out. It has to get finished. So I would just basic everything, throw it in. Okay, I can hear everything for the most part. Cool, whatever. When I went back to edit all the tracks for Bandcamp, I went through and actually took the time to just like, okay, like when I heard this song on Instagram or on YouTube, like I could barely hear this, or this was too loud. Able to fix some stuff up. So let's look at day 4, which was Irish. Figured take a look at day 5. This one actually featured the piano, which actually is featured on quite a bit of tracks. I just haven't got to that yet. So very basic setup, just the Juno DS, direct in, straight into the interface. For the most part, never really did all that much EQ to it because it's already pretty balanced coming out of the machine. Might have thrown some compression here and there. But in particular with this one, because it was old-fashioned, I wanted to give it that obviously old-timey sound. So on the master bus here, got that gentle vintage preset, which I did tweak a little bit just to get it where I wanted to sound. But if you look here on this wave, like here's on this side is all your low end, on this side is your high end. So this guy cuts off all that low end, this cuts off all this high end up here, and then boosts this little mid-range here, so that all you can hear is that old radio tone.
Hey, you there? Who, me? Yes, you.
And then on top of that, not only just to like crunch all those frequencies into one spot, added the vinyl distortion that simulated broken audio sounds there. Right here we got it peaked, and so it kind of crunches on this frequency, adds that grit, that old speaker tone to it on both the pinch here and the tracking model here. Topped it off with the Volv compression. Just with all the settings here, I just knew that I was going to be able to get a more vintage tone out of it. So with those three together, plus when I bounced this track, when I turned it into an MP3, I set it to mono and not stereo. So that's day 5 in particular is like one of two, I think. I bounced as mono to give it even more of an actual vintage. Yeah, on top of that, used a few samples here. Took the intro to In Regards to Myself from Under Oath and just looped the projector noise, so it sounds like a presentation's happening. So that being the basic layout for how we did all of our live recorded items, there were a few tracks that we did that were pretty much all in box. One of them being Day 9, which was Future. Let's go back to our glitch hop kind of mentality that we used to have. So what I did was I drag this audio track into Ableton. I take a section that I like, take that little section, got rid of the rest because it loops and we just only need a little bit of it. So once you take that, right click, you'll see down here, you'll see slice to new MIDI track, click on that. And then forget which selection I made, but let's just go ahead and make it quarter notes. Hit OK. It slices it up for you. And when you have it sliced up like this, then what was this sample is now this. once we figured out a pattern that we liked, we went ahead and mapped that into our project here, which you can see. Let's shrink it a little bit. That's shrunk all the way. So there's our selected track there. All total, you smash that sucker together, you get that I did for recording some of these songs, little tips and tricks that I've accumulated or gotten stuck using, I guess, depending on how you look at it. Hopefully you learned something. If you got any other questions, you want to see me dive into a more specific track, or you want to see a few more tricks in a little bit more detail, go ahead and send us a message or email, comments below. Anything like that. We like to engage with you guys. We like talking with you. So let us know if you got anything, and we'll see you next time.